Welcome, I'm Bev Adams. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. This is the card for you today. It's got lots of sparkles. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera. Don't worry about directions. I will have all the directions that you can print out for yourself or just look at online with all the supplies and dimensions. This project uses Daisy Delight. Love this stamp set. And the Daisy Punch. And we're also going to use the embossing paste and one of the masks that you can get. You will also want some other supplies that are not from Stampin' Up. I'm using freezer paper to work on. It's plastic coated paper and it makes it really easy to save your space so that you're not making a huge mess. And you will want to clean your tools with some water. So I've got a tub handy. The embossing paste dries really quickly, but you don't want it to dry on your tools, so you can just drop them into the water so it doesn't harden on your tools. You may also want some sort of soft brush to dust off any extra glitter. Card base made of the thick Whisper White that's 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Love this thick Whisper White and the thick Berry Vanilla, especially for card bases. I have a piece of Night of Navy that is kind of an odd size. It's 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I have another piece of thick Whisper White that's 5 1/4 by 4, which is a real common size for me. I'm going to be layering this, and that gives the Night of Navy a really thin border, which I love. I have another piece of Whisper White that's 1 by 4 1/2, and a piece of the Delightful Daisy Designer Series paper that's 5 1/4 by 1 1/2. One of the hardest parts of this project for me was deciding which piece of Delightful Daisy Designer Series paper I wanted to use, because I love them all. You'll find that on one side is a floral. I think I like this one the best, to be honest with you. This one's gorgeous. I really love all of these. And then on the other side are graphic designs. And this is the one I ultimately decided to use. Some people have said, but it's an uneven color. That is the way it's designed. You can see several of them have that. I just love this Designer Series paper. And we're going to start by embossing this 5 1/4 by 4 Whisper White. I want to put my mask on the cardstock, and I don't want it to move around, so I'm going to just temporarily hold that down with a little bit of washi tape. You could use retired tape for this. And I'm bringing in that freezer paper, and I've got just a scrap as an area to mix my embossing paste. Pick your favorite tools. I think this one's my favorite tool. These are all from Stampin' Up, and I do have a case for those if you want. Mix about a teaspoon. You don't have to measure it, but this is probably more than I need, so I'm going to put a little bit back in. Make sure to close this up tight. And I'm putting just a drop of Night of Navy refill ink. That will be more than enough ink. You do not want to mix this in uniformly. And I'm going to just smear this on. Again, you don't want this to be uniform either. It really will look a lot better if you've got some smeared edges. And you don't need to smooth it out. It's totally fine to have some high and low places. So I think I'm going to just stop right there, and I'll pull that off and put this into the water. And while this is still wet, I want to sprinkle just a pinch of Dazzling Diamonds glitter over this. a little or a lot, totally up to you. We want to stamp 2 daisies on the 5.5 by 3 Whisper White. You'll find it easier if you put your daisy so that the petals are up and down instead of maybe turned a little bit so that it matches the punch. Then I'm going to punch it out with the coordinating daisy punch. I have been reading that some people have trouble with this punch getting tangled in the bits of paper. I have not had that problem myself, and I'm not sure what the difference is. But you can see how there's all these little pieces of paper, and if you do get stuck, just punch your way out of the problem. Stamp thank you on your 1-inch strip in Night of Navy ink. And punch the ends. And I have a strip of the Delightful Daisy Designer Series paper. This is 1.5 inches. And punch that with the flag. I'm going to adhere my dried embossed layer. If your cardstock is curled at all, use plenty of adhesive. And I have designed this with a very narrow border. I don't know if you can see that on the dark layer. Let me take that away. Very, very narrow border. Then adhere this to the card base. You may want to gently curl the petals of your flowers. I kind of like having them tucked down a little bit. Totally up to you. You do not want to play He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not by tearing these petals off, though. Stamp the stem in Old Olive and the smaller flower on your envelope and inside your card. Then adhere your banners. I just love that paper. It was so hard for me to figure out which paper to use because I loved all of it. I'm putting the thank you on dimensionals. And you just want to be sure that there's enough room for your flower. I like lots of dimensionals on this part, but if you're mailing it, you may want to put them flat. And just alternate the petals here. And I'm using the clear faceted gems. And any of these sizes would look lovely. I'll use the large one. And there's my card. If you would like the directions and a link for all the products I used, come on over to bevadams.com, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.